Hey guys, Chris here, CaribbeanPod.com. I hope you guys are enjoying the recipes. Today, I asked you guys on Facebook earlier this morning if you guys wanted me to make a quick video on making callaloo. Now, this is callaloo from Trinidad and Tobago. Many of the other islands call it callaloo as well. It's more of a soup than anything else. However, my Jamaican friends watching this, you'll be asking yourself, what is Chris really trying to pass off here as callaloo? Well, in Jamaica, the callaloo is more of a bush, more of a spinach than anything else. And though we're using spinach in this recipe, it's totally different than what would be called callaloo in Jamaica. But this here is the national dish of Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to put some crab in here. We're going to put some coconut milk. We're going to put a ton of stuff in here. However, it's going to be simple to make, but so tasty when it's all done. I'm going to enjoy mine here as a soup. However, as part of the main Sunday lunch on the islands, callaloo, stewed chicken, macaroni, pie, rice, fried plantain. Again, guys, check out all those recipes I'm calling out there on CaribbeanPod.com. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, above me, well, I'm not in the video today, above you're going to see the subscribe link. Click on that, people. This is the only way you're going to get the recipes as soon as I post them online. This thick, rich, luscious soup here, well, it's not really considered a soup down in the islands, but I guess you would, simply because of the texture and everything else. But callaloo, again, this is the recipe from Trinidad and Tobago. So guys, let's get cooking this beautiful, tasty callaloo dish. The ingredients for making the callaloo is as follows. Now, traditionally, you would use the baby dasheen bush leaves, which is basically the leaves of the dasheen plant, but the ones that are still curled up. To source those here in North America is pretty hard. So what I've resorted to doing is using baby spinach leaves, and this is what I have here: 1 pound of baby spinach, which I've rinsed off in cool water and allowed to dry in a colander. You can certainly give it a rough chop if you want to allow it to cook down a bit faster. But remember, you're looking for baby spinach leaves. The more mature spinach won't work as good, let's just say that. Over here, what I've got a couple of green onions or scallions, whatever you call it. I've got 1 medium onion, which I'm going to chop up. 3 cloves of garlic, again, I'm going to chop those up. And here I've got 3 pimento peppers. These are flavor peppers. They're not known for heat. So we'll be using all 3 of them. We're going to chop them up. However, we'll also be using, and I have here 1 habanero pepper. I'm just going to plop that in whole into a pot. We won't burst it. We won't break it up. We won't do anything. We just want the flavors out of this habanero pepper. If you have a Scotch bonnet pepper, just as good. I've got some fresh thyme here. It's going to work out to about maybe 1 tablespoon of thyme. Over here I've got some okras. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to chop off the top, discard that, and then I'm going to chop it up into small pieces. All of that is going to go in there. There's about 1 pound of okras there. Further back, I've got here about a cup, maybe about 1.25 cups of diced up pumpkin. Totally optional, but it adds a good sort of texture and flavor to the entire callaloo. You can also add some sweet potato. I've also seen people add carrots to it, but today we're just going to stick with the pumpkin. Here I've got 2 crabs, which I've cleaned up and cut up into pieces. Basically, you get maybe about 4 pieces of crab out of it. But again, 2 crabs, I washed it, I cleaned it, cut it up, got rid of all the shell and everything, the back and everything else. You can certainly use crab meat as well. I'm sure it will work good, but don't get the imitation crab stuff. That's just terrible to use. We're going to start off with we got some salt here. We're going to start off maybe with about 1/2 teaspoon to maybe 3/4 teaspoon of salt to start with, because again, as it cooks later on and breaks down, then we're going to taste for salt and add maybe a little bit more near the end. I've got some fresh ground black pepper, about 1/4 teaspoon. Something that's not traditional to making callaloo. I have some olive oil here, and I'm going to use a tablespoon of olive oil in making this. Now, traditionally, I've seen my mom and I've seen others do this without frying anything or without the use of oil. However, I like to use the oil to saute the garlic and herbs and stuff like that before I add everything to the pot, just to release all those flavors. A little bit different way of cooking, but trust me, it is delicious. Some coconut milk. We've got about 2 cups of coconut milk that we're going to use as well as 2 cups or so of water. If I forget anything here in this little ingredient little segment here, I'll certainly tell you guys as we go along cooking, but these are the ingredients for making callaloo. In the pot here, on a medium-high heat, I've added the olive oil, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and I've added the green onions as well as the garlic to the pot, just to soften that up a bit, and again, for it to release its flavors. We don't want to darken it up or get it brown or anything. We just want to soften up everything. And then I'm going to add the thyme. Again, we were trying to release all those flavors, as well as a crack of fresh ground black pepper, less than 1/4 teaspoon. You may want to turn the heat down now to maybe about a medium-low heat, and let this saute here for about a minute or 2 until the onions has gone soft and everything has released its natural oil. The onions and garlic, everything has been sauteed here now for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes or so. So all I'm going to do now is start adding the baby spinach to the pot. Now it's going to seem like a lot and it's going to pile up quite a bit in the pot, but as the heat gets to it, it's going to cook down, and you're going to notice that you're going to have tons of room here for the other ingredients as well. I'm just going to continue adding this. I'm going to stir it around until it cooks down, and then we're going to add the other ingredients. It's been cooking now for about 5 minutes. The spinach has cooked down quite a bit, so all I'm going to add now is the okra that we cut up. The chopped up pimento peppers, the pumpkin, so I have cubed up. Just going to give that a quick stir. As the spinach cooks down, it's going to be a lot easier to work with. And now I'm going to add about 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Remember, later on when we taste it, we're going to add some more salt, but for now we're just going to start with that as a base. I have here the whole habanero pepper. Notice I didn't break it or cut it open or anything. And I've got the 2 crabs which I've cut up into pieces. Next to go in there will be the coconut milk. And I'm also going to add 2 cups of water to this. I'm going to bring it up to a boil, and then we're going to bring it all the way back down to a gentle simmer. Cover the pot and allow that to cook for at least 50 minutes. During which time we're going to stir. Try not to break up the pepper, because it's going to release all that heat, the habanero pepper. But we're going to try and allow this to simmer, a gentle simmer, for about 45 minutes. It's now come up to a boil, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a quick stir. Right now I have it on a big burner. I'm going to move it over to a smaller burner to the back of the stove here, because I want this to cook very slowly. I'm going to cover the pot, bring it up to let it cook on a gentle simmer for about 45 to 50 minutes, during which time every 10-15 minutes I'm going to give it a gentle stir. Now, some of you may have noticed that I put crab in here, and if you guys don't want to put crab, the coconut milk and all the other different things that we put in here will definitely give it enough flavor. However, the traditional way of cooking this is with crab. Now, the other way, I've seen my mom do it as well, is using salted meats, such as pigtail or salted beef, but we pre-boil it before we add it to the pot, just so that it's not too salty. So again, guys, we're going to let this cook for about 50 minutes, 50, on a gentle simmer. It's been simmering now for about 15 minutes. I gave it a good stir, and now I'm going to taste for salt. Now definitely, since we started off with just a 3/4 teaspoon of salt, you're definitely going to need a little bit more salt. So taste it to see how much more salt you think it'll need. I'm thinking maybe just a 1/4 teaspoon more or so to bring the total amount of salt up to 1 teaspoon of salt. However, I'm going to be adding some Golden Ray margarine, and this is it's considered a salted butter, very, very salty. So I'm just going to add a tablespoon of that in here. Give it a good stir. And like I said, it's been cooking for about 50 minutes. I'm going to give it another 10 minutes or so just for that salted margarine, that salted butter, the Golden Ray to do its thing. Then what I'm going to do after that, I'm going to remove the whole pepper that I had in there, the Scotch bonnet pepper, habanero pepper, sorry, as well as the big pieces of crab that I have in there. And then we're going to sort of break everything down with a submersion blender, or you can certainly put it into a food processor, but we'll get to that step. I'm just going to let this simmer now for about another 10-15 minutes, and then we'll get to that step. I've allowed it to cook another extra 10-15 minutes, and what I've gone ahead and done, I've removed all the big pieces of crab from the pot, simply because we're going to be trying to break everything down in here now into a smooth consistency. As you can see, the spinach and everything has wilted down, the okras are all cooked down, the sweet potato is melted in there, and it's packed with a ton of flavor. Now what you can do is allow it to cool a bit and put it into a blender and give it a few pulses, because you want to get a sort of a smooth but chunky consistency. The other thing you can use is one of these immersion blenders here, and again, you want to give it pulsing action. Don't allow it to go continuously, because then what I find, and I don't like using the immersion blender, is that it will tend to go a bit frothy. But again, if that's what you choose to use, feel free to do so. However, do it in a sort of a pulsing action. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go old school, and what I have here is what's called a swizzle stick, and all I'm going to do is put it into the pot here, and with a sort of a rolling motion with both my hands, with the swizzle stick in between, I'm just going to swizzle everything together and break it all up. Now I've turned off the heat on the stove, and I'm just going to break this down using the swizzle stick, as I mentioned, for a couple of minutes here to make sure I have that smooth consistency, again with a bit of chunkiness to it, to the overall thing. You'll notice that I didn't remove the hot pepper, that I have the whole hot pepper that I had in there. I love the heat from the hot pepper, so I left it in there. However, you guys can remove that out of there as well and discard it at this point. But I'm going to go ahead using the swizzle stick and break this down a bit, and when we come back, it's going to be the completed, I'm just going to put the crabs back in there, and it's going to be the completed callaloo for you guys to see what it looks like. So now this is about it, guys. The callaloo is all done here. I used a swizzle stick, I broke everything down. I'm just going to add back the pieces of crab to the pot here. Give it a quick stir. And that's it. It's all done, guys. Remember to taste for salt. If you want to add a bit more black pepper or anything else in here, by all means do so. I'm just going to show you guys the consistency. Due to the okras that we put in here, it's going to have a sort of a, not necessarily slimy, but a wonderful texture. It's nice and smooth, as you can see, with the pieces of crab in there. Now remember, guys, if you guys want to add a little bit more flavor to this, halfway through cooking, you can also crush up 1 chicken bouillon cube in here to give it an extra kick of flavor. But callaloo, guys, I hope you guys give this a try. There we go. I'm going to give you guys a little close-up shot of it. Give it a try, guys. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, above you're going to see the subscribe. Below, there we go, down below you're going to see the comment section. Leave me your comments. Click on subscribe above. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Hope you guys are enjoying the recipes. Give this one a shot, guys. It's absolutely one of the best dishes out of the Caribbean.